big palm trees without coconuts. They were very tall, maybe 20 or 30 meters tall, with fronds on the ends, but very small. They were planted on the sides of roads to look very opulent, but they didn't give any fruits or flowers. So the whole thing was kind of an artificial attempt at making something very, very affluent looking. Today's a very special day because it's the 4th of July. The 4th of July is a national holiday in the United States, commemorating the day the nation of the United States became independent from England. And there's a big parade in Washington, D.C. on that day, in which the Rathayatra cart of ISKCON takes part. It's the float of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. I think it won some awards in the past. Anyway, that's going to be held tomorrow. That's the difference in the time. It's about 14 hours. It's also a very important day because today in Puri is the Rathayatra, official day of the Rathayatra, and it's a big parade. Supposedly 1 million people come to it. It's very dangerous and pushy to be down there, especially if you're my age or older, or you know, maybe 10 years younger. Some people get trampled and crushed and die. At least that's what the news media say. Anyway, it's a big event in India. It's a big holiday, especially in Bengal. The national television hookup called Doordarshan does a 7-hour live broadcast from Puri, including narrations in Hindi and English. So today I'm going to read about the first Rathayatra in the United States. Prabhupada was very fond of this festival. When he was a very young child, he put on a Rathayatra festival when he was about 8 or 9 years old. And he had a little cart made, and he pulled the deities, or maybe it was already made. He pulled the deities on a string and had a little festival in his parents' home in Calcutta. Later on, in 1966, when he came to the United States, he was gazing out his window on the 4th floor in San Francisco and saw what they call in America flatbed trucks. I don't know, what do they call them here? Something. It's got a big flat bed in the back of the cabin, and he made a drawing of how a Rathayatra could be enacted by placing the deities on the back of that truck. It was a very intricate drawing with a legend, and it was done in pencil and pen. I don't remember exactly how it was done, but he masterminded having a festival in the city of San Francisco, which he deemed to call New Jagannath Puri, because it was fairly near to the sea. Puri, of course, is right on the sea. Anyway, this is the narration I'm going to read. Shamsundar and Bob had rented a flatbed truck, which they parked in a Safeway parking lot while they worked on constructing the deity's canopy. They were basically following the drawing that Prabhupada made. Bob Simmons was a friend of ISKCON, who was a bit skilled at carpentry. I drove past on my way home one evening. Bob was holding up a pillar while Shamsundar secured it to the back of the truck. I saw the Swami's sketch was tacked to the back of the driver's cabin so they could refer to it. "Hey, Mukunda," Shamsundar called as I got out of the car. "How's the Swami feeling? You think he's going to be able to come for the parade?" At that time, who we called Swamiji was in Stinson Beach recovering from an illness, and he wasn't attending the Rathayatra. "I don't know," he said. "He seems a lot weaker than I expected. He's recovering kind of slowly." "Well, if he can't come to the Rathayatra, we'll take the Rathayatra to him," Shamsundar declared. "Jai Jagannath." "Hey, you know those big trucks called juggernauts?" Bob said. The ones with big trailers and everything? You know where the name for those things came from? From Jagannath. Really? It came from the Sanskrit, I asked. I guess so, Jagannatha. They sure sound the same, Bob said. Doesn't the truck look great? Shamsundar asked. It really does, I said. You guys nearly done? ? Sure are, Bob said. Did the whole thing in less than 24 hours. I reported to the Swami about Bob and Shamasundar's amazing efficiency the following day while we walked along Stinson Beach. And later on we're going to show a video that includes what the first Rathayatra in America looked like in the United States, in the West actually. This is very nice. Do you think you will feel well enough to come? I ventured. Actually, I am thinking not, he said. This is Bob. He walked silently for a moment. I will return to India soon. To India? This wasn't really a surprise, but I was disappointed nonetheless. Yes, he said, for Ayurvedic treatment and rest. Now I will rest here. I will get strength for journey, then I will go. When? Perhaps end of July, he answered. We will see what Krishna desires. We marched up the steps of the house and removed our shoes. I took the Swami's houndstooth coat and black hat and hung them on the row of coat hooks inside the front door. The Swami went into the den and sat down in one of the beige armchairs. This is now in Stinson Beach, apparently. Mukunda, come, he called. He gestured toward the chair opposite him. So, he said a little playfully, what is your definition of Krishna? I was pleased because a philosophical discussion meant he was feeling somewhat better. Krishna is God, I answered. He is the Supreme Being, and our duty is to worship Him. It wasn't exactly a philosophically penetrating answer, but he seemed happy with it. He looked hard at me for a long time. You must chant 64 rounds every day, he said finally. I was shocked. He must not have liked my answer after all. Chanting that much, 8 hours a day would be impossible, I thought. I wasn't sure I was being singled out because of spiritual deficiency, or if this was going to be a new requirement for everyone. But I knew it would be unattainable for me. I had enough problems just trying to get 16 rounds done every day. The Swami saw my hesitancy. Then you must chant at least 32 rounds, he said. That was a consolation, but even 32 rounds seemed like an awful lot. The Swami stared hard at me. Well, okay, I mumbled, looking at the floor. There was a long pause. You must chant at least 16 rounds a day, he said. Yes, Swami, I said loudly, looking up. I was so relieved. This I knew I could do, but I felt like I was reconfirming my earlier promise to him. I understood now that 16 rounds was only a quarter of the ideal 64, even though I knew it was all I could handle for now. I rededicated myself to chanting at least 16 rounds daily without fail. Rathayatra Day dawned overcast and blustery. The summer of love was at its peak. They called it the summer of love in San Francisco. As it was like San Francisco had become a mecca of the sort of revolutionary hippie generation. And people were thronging to this place from all over the country, from Massachusetts, Nevada, everywhere. The summer of love was at its peak, and a festive feeling was in the air that Sunday morning, despite heavy winds. Shamsundar parked the truck in front of the temple so the deities could be transferred from altar to mobile shrine. The canopy looked glorious, decorated with multicolored flags, strings of bells, and long loops of marigold and carnation flower garlands. San Francisco is an unusual place because in the summertime in the northern hemisphere it's usually very warm, but San Francisco is very cold and windy because it's a sort of weird thing. It's on a peninsula and somehow it's cold. And as soon as you go across the Bay Bridge into Oakland, go in the eastern direction, it's very sunny and warm. That's San Francisco. Everyone assembled at the temple for the start of the parade, dressed in their best, and men in jeans. First, what do they call it? Best dressed? First served? Best dressed? I think, something like that. The men in jeans and nice shirts, and women in bright-colored saris that they'd managed to organize for this special occasion. Shyamsundar Gurdas and I decided to wear our white and brown Merlin regalia so we would stand out from the crowd. Maybe you'll see those in the video. You can see what they are. We still didn't know for sure if the Swami would show up. Hey Mukunda, Shyamsundar said, why don't you go and call Paradiso and see what the story is? The temple room was gradually filling up with festival goers, but I wanted to weave my way through the kirtan to get to the phone at the back of the temple. The phone rang 10 times before Hayagriva answered it. It's Mukunda, I said. Can I talk to the Swami? He's resting now, Hayagriva said. So does that mean he's not going to be able to come for the Rathayatra, I asked? Yes, he's not going to be able to come, he said. He's just not well enough. I felt downcast. Well, can you tell him that we wish he could be here, but that we'll make sure the parade's amazing, even if he can't come, I said. We've got a huge feast ready here at the temple for after the parade, and we'll report back everything that happens. Okay, sounds good, Hayagriva said. Outside, the deities were now on the truck ready to go. Subhadra looking straight out back, Jagannath and Baladeva facing either side. About 10 people sat on the flatbed, their legs dangling off the edges of the truck, holding handfuls of smoking incense. A large kirtan party with kartals, drums, tambourines, and flutes chanted beside the stationary truck. The speaker system we used in Golden Gate Park was fixed to the back of the truck. The large speakers positioned between the canopy and the driver's cabin. The amplifier was powered by the Tiny Tiger. Tiny Tiger was the name of the about the size of a basketball, was the name given to this yellow-colored generator, which sat next to the devotees on the wooden truck bed. Shyamsundar sat in the driver's seat with the engine idling. So he's coming, he asked. No, he's not strong enough, I said. But let's do the parade for him. He's the energy behind it. Someone made a space for me on the flatbed, and I jumped up just as Shyamsundar pulled away from the curb, started up the Tiny Tiger, and plugged in the temple microphone and began to lead the chanting. Immediately I saw the problem. The generator was going to drown out the singing and every other sound as well. It was very very small, but very, very loud. It was kind of like a jet engine up close. I turned it off and got Shyamsundar to stop the truck so we could discuss how to amplify the kirtan. We could put the Tiger in a car and get someone to drive 100 feet or so behind us, I said. That would mean running an electrical cord between the truck and the car. That's too dangerous, Shyamsundar said. We'll just have to put the thing in here with me and roll up the windows to muffle the sound. That'll be too much for you, I said. The fumes will kill you. And if they don't, the roar will make you deaf by the end of the parade. It'll be okay, Shyamsundar said. I don't think it'll be that bad. It's not like I'd be inhaling smoke. It expelled a lot of carbon monoxide, which, as you probably know, is deadly. The parade moved forward once again, and the generator roaring away on the floor of the truck. I climbed on the flatbed again and began to lead the chanting. The truck drove slowly down the street, and the devotees walked beside it, chanting and smiling and waving to onlookers. 2 barefoot young women I'd never seen before danced along the street in front of the truck, twirling and clapping with their eyes closed. The sound of my voice wafted over the buildings. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. The whole time I was leading, I was worried about Shyamsundar Das, and after half an hour, I asked a devotee named Jivananda to sing so that I could see how he was doing and if I could help in any way. I opened the passenger door of the moving truck and the smell hit me. God, it's like a torture chamber in here, I shouted over the deafening sound of the Tiger. Shyamsundar grinned hazily at me through the thick smoke as I jumped in beside him. We got to get the windows down here, I shouted. We're going to suffocate. Roll down your window. But it ruins the sound, he screamed, smiling. Okay, just roll them down for a minute, and then we'll roll them up again for a minute. Then down, then up. Fresh air flooded the driver's cab. We rolled the windows up, and I held my breath for as long as I could, and then rolled the windows down again. I could see the headlines, Krishna suffocate to death. This chant delights crowds. The insane hilarity of the situation struck me, and before long, Shyamasundar and I were in fits of laughter. Everyone was having a good time. The parade was a success, and we were somehow managing to tolerate the poisonous carbon monoxide. The Swami said the parade must be unhurried, so we moved westward toward the beach, slowly. We came to a slight grade in the road, and the engine stalled. The vehicle rolled backwards, and that was the engine of the vehicle. The vehicle rolled backwards about 6 feet while Shyamasundar was frantically trying to start it and braking intermittently. It felt like there was a boulder or lump under the wheels. Surely we haven't hit someone, I thought, frantically jumping out of the truck. It was just a pothole. Shyamasundar jammed his foot on the brakes, pulled up the handle, and got the truck started. Everyone cheered. We pulled into Irving Street, a nice wide road with plenty of room for the parade and participants to dance and twirl. There were lots of Sunday shoppers, and despite the meager publicity we mustered, a lot of people saw the festival. Once we got into the rhythm of opening and closing the truck windows, I got Murari to take my place. I felt very sick because of the smoke and didn't think I'd be able to make it to see the Swami that night. Later that night, the Rathayatra cart was driven to Stinson Beach, which was about an hour away, a very windy road over in Marin County, to show the deities. And the deities were still on the truck to Srila Prabhupada. We were halfway to the ocean, but I turned around and headed back to our apartment to sleep. I had been up the whole night before. That afternoon, the festival participants returned to the temple for a huge feast in honor of America's first Rathayatra festival. I staggered down to the temple. When everyone had eaten their fill, 19 devotees jumped into the back of the flatbed truck with the deities, and Shyamasundar drove them out to see the Swami drove them out to see the Swami. The next day they told me that it had been dark and cold and windy, and there was nothing to hold on to on the flatbed. Somehow Shyamasundar negotiated the sharp curves on the narrow roadway, causing the devotees to scream in excitement and fear. The slope down to Stinson Beach and Paradiso was precipitous, but everyone was so eager to tell the Swami about the Rathayatra that they didn't mind much. Hayagriva greeted everyone in the front steps. "Come in," he said. "The Swami wants to hear all about it." They carried the deities inside and placed them on the spinet piano. The Swami bowed down before them and sat down in his chair, smiling broadly at everyone. "We had the parade, and so many people saw it," Shyamasundar said. "Everyone was chanting and dancing in front of the truck," Malati said. "We walked all the way to the beach, and then everyone went to the temple for a big feast. At one point, we thought the truck was going to roll backwards over the crowd," Gurdas said. "The engine stalled." The Swami opened his eyes wide. "Yes, this is also happening in Puri," he said. "Lord Jagannath's cart sometimes stops and even rolls backwards. So this stoppage was the Lord's mercy. This first American Rathayatra was the real Rathayatra, just as in Puri." So now I'll show a little video about this event, if technology cooperates, that is. This is kind of low resolution. It's a 6-minute video, and it includes Prabhupada's arrival in San Francisco, which was his first airplane flight, from New York anyway. And it also shows Kirtan in Golden Gate Park on Hippie Hill, and the inside of the temple with Lord Jagannath missing because he was taken away from the altar for Snanayatra for a couple of weeks. Okay, ready when you are.
Prabhupada arrived at the airport a day or two before the Mantra concert. No one knew what to expect. Mukunda and Jamuna had met Prabhupada, but none of us had met Prabhupada yet. There's my dog walking.
That's Ellen Ginsberg in the beard.
Ginsberg. We were, of course, delighted and could immediately see that we had made the right choice once we saw Prabhupada.
That's me on Allen Ginsberg's left with in the
Light
beard.
up the whole room. We couldn't take our eyes off of it. And obviously, if he attracted our gurus like Allen Ginsberg had a great influence on most of us. He was one of the leading members of what was called the Beat Generation. He and Jack Kerouac practically single-handedly changed the consciousness of millions of young Americans with their ideas that life should be lived in a very open manner with freedoms and pursuing higher things and throw off the old shackles. Prabhupada had the stamp of approval of the Beat Generation. He was for us.
So this area is known as Hippie Hill in San Francisco's Golden Gate Park. Almost every day, everyone would gather at Hippie Hill, and sometimes the devotees would come and chant. And this particular day was like any other day there. But as I remember entering the park, and what attracted me was the beauty and the sound of the, I didn't even know at the time it was a Hare Krishna mantra. People have been chanting all around the Haight-Ashbury area for months and months prior to this. The idea that Srila Prabhupada was there that particular day just captured me. That through the sound vibration, he just reached into me, reached into my heart, and somehow or other said, this one is mine. It wasn't maybe a year or so later that I actually started to join the temple.
Prabhupada had introduced something that all of the youth were really attracted to, and he was really something of a Pied Piper. You can see here how much everybody is participating. These are not just devotees, but all of the people here in the park were completely open to this. As a matter of fact, so much so that they considered the Hare Krishna to be the hippie religion at this point in 1967 in San Francisco. So many hippies were in love with Prabhupada and in love with the devotees and considered themselves very much a part of Hare Krishna.
And there was a lot of singing in the park, and so I used to come down, help out, sing along too. I had been singing Hare Krishna since '63, and it seemed to me that almost...
That is Allen Ginsberg speaking.
But I knew at the time that the more reforming the better, the more spiritual teachers the better. Because America seemed to sunk in a morass of aggressive and murderous militarism in those days. I was right in the middle of the Vietnam War, and I'd come home from India near Saigon. So anybody going out on the street, particularly singing in the street, seemed to lighten the whole American scene. That seemed like a breakthrough of joy, dancing, human voice. And so it seemed like a marvelous social contribution.
This historic footage gives us a glimpse into the first Rathayatra celebrated in the Western world
Jamuna speaking.
in 1967. And another track there is a kirtan that goes with this Rathayatra. And it was the melody that goes something like this. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. And that went for hours and hours as we sang it on the cart. A few wonderful things about this Rathayatra were that the crowd that gathered alongside of the cart of partly hippies that knew nothing about Lord Jagannath and partly some hippies who had tasted Krishna Prasad in our temple and sampled the nectar of the holy name in our kirtans were very genuinely enthusiastic to celebrate this Rathayatra. Lord Jagannath, Subhadra, and Balaram faced different directions on the cart. So no matter what side you were on, you were able to get face-to-face darshan of their lordships. There was a pastime with this cart where the engine of the flatbed truck that the deities were seated on stalled. And when we told that to Srila Prabhupada, he said that this was not uncommon, that the cart would stall, even if it was pulled by hand, and stop at various places along the route. So he was happy to see that somehow in San Francisco, without even knowing about this pastime, our cart stalled on the hill. The route was the full length from the Haight-Ash Ferry all the way to the sea. And when the cart arrived at the sea, there was a very wonderful kirtan on the beach.
So we have a few minutes. If you have any comments or questions, I'll do my best to answer or comment further.
When when he goes down Yatra, he just lets the butter and bucket let it go. That's what happened, right?
That's what happened.
I was just wondering whatever happened with Alan Gilfield.
Whatever happened? He died.
Oh.
That was one thing that happened.
Did he die chanting Krishna's name?
I don't know. I wasn't around. I didn't hear about it. The circumstances surrounding his departure. He had as far as I know, he had a favorable attitude up until the end of his life.
Remember, there was also an incident where prior to Rathayatra you were taking Jagannath down to the park.
Oh yeah, there was an incident where one Sunday we decided to take Jagannath to Golden Gate Park, and Prabhupada heard about it, or he was even there I think, and he said it actually wasn't proper to take Jagannath outside the temple, except it happened once a year on Rathayatra Day. But we seated him in the park and thought that was pretty cool. It was like, we had our own totem sort of thing, totem worship.
Also the devotees for some time were wearing Lord Jagannath with a screw in his head around their neck, remember?
Yeah, they had, I think Malati told about this, that she acquired a little Jagannath deity from an import store, which imported it from India. And it became kind of a fashion for people to wear this around their necks with some kind of a rawhide band and a screw hook into his head, which was later replaced by something he could sit in, because we found out that screwing something into a deity's head was actually improper. But that was a big item of wear for the people that had come to that hippie Mecca in San Francisco. It became a sort of fashion. So we had to get a lot more of them.
So, where would you go?
Well, you'd go to the old temple, which is now a laundromat, and walk the route, I guess. You could go to the beach, but it's not very good for surfing. It's actually quite cold. People have done that. They've gone and, relived the walk down memory lane, so to speak, at the laundromat and at the apartment where Prabhupada used to live on the same building.
How many people they used to get to the Sunday feast with?
Pardon?
How many people in San Francisco would they get for a Sunday feast?
Anywhere between 30 and 150, maybe.
Was it wild? Was it wild? Were they all?
It was pretty wild. A lot of people that became sort of swamis later in life joined there. the original Vishnu John, the chanter, he joined there, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj. It was right on the edge of the Haight-Ashbury neighborhood, so it wasn't a very difficult place to get to. Anyone else?
Anyone's? Once?
Okay, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.